Logos as creative word, inspired word. That's what we're going to be thinking about in this video. Let's reconnect. Inspired means of the Spirit, and the Spirit that dwells within, that gives guidance, that is knowledge of higher intelligence. So Logos is, if you like, the God from above. And Sophia is God from below, from the unconscious, in matter, in the content of your life. So we want both. We want this marriage of Logos and wisdom. And that's what we're going to be exploring, how to achieve that. So when I said Logos, you might know of that being in the New Testament. The book of John begins with the word Logos in the Greek. We're not going to read it in the Greek, but it says, in the beginning was the Word, capital W, and it would have been Logos in Greek. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. So we've got this creative dynamic, this creative energy or principle in the use of Logos. I also said inspired, the spirit that lives within, because spirit in Jungian terms is the dynamic that's always one step ahead of you, minute by minute, step by step. And the spirit is the knowledge and ability of psyche, of mind, of consciousness, to always generate the next thing you have to consider, the next step in your growth. So it's a dynamic, and it comes from within. And you know what what's come to me, what's come to my mind, even when I'm preparing this, is that this relates to the inner teacher, intuition, the inner tutors. In religious terms, the Christ within, the mind of Christ. You have the mind of Christ. As we step into the greater mind, metanoia, what we're doing is we are opening ourselves up to higher expanded consciousness. In other words, the mind of Christ, Christ Logos. Do we see these connections? I know I'm getting quite sort of theoretical here, but I do get quite excited when I make these connections, and suddenly it's like a revelation of understanding it in a new way, and it's empowering because it validates our inner journey, the individual journey, the journey of the mystic, which is about finding your own way. You really can find your own way. You don't need the church out there, the institution of the church, to find your own way. Roy agrees. Because it's all in you. You have the masculine aspect, if you like, the Logos, which is, let me just look at my notes, which tends to be the principle of divine reason and creative order. Okay, a creative force and dynamic. That's the Logos. In Jungian psychology, it's the principle of reason and judgment associated with the animus, which is the divine masculine. And then you have the divine feminine in the form of Sophia, coming from the unconscious. So you have the marriage of these two. If you are having a rich inner life, if you're leaning in and listening and developing your inner relationship with the Logos, inner relationship with your inner guidance. And that inner guidance is a creative dynamic in itself. What do I mean by that? I mean that from my own experience, my inner world is rich with characters, teachers, like a little group of them that come as I'm going to the next step. When the student is ready, the teacher emerges. Now, the Christian church might say, well, that's all wrong. You don't have anything to do. You shouldn't be doing all of that. You only need Christ, and you need the teaching of the church. I have Christ, the Christ within, And the Christ within is the Logos. And the Logos is the inner teacher. And this comes about as a kind of constellation, word that's coming to mind, a constellation of guides and teachers that show up just at the right time for the right purpose. And this will change at different times of your life, and some aspects of it might remain the same and constant all the way through, but it's all part of the Logos. It's like a group, like a community. The communion of saints is what I'm hearing. That's a word we could use, but it's always contextual and relevant. You see, the communion of saints to me means nothing. If I were to think, okay, I want to learn about the communion of saints because I want it to be legit, I want sort of validation for what I'm doing, then I'd say, well, who are the saints? And I'd find out about all these different saints, Saint Jerome, Saint Augustine, Saint whatever. I mean, I don't even know their names, but I'd have to find out about them and who they were. And then they would just be meaningless to me. Meaningless. I just feel that I'm finding out about some historical figure that was canonised by the church and that we're meant to venerate, but it's all a little bit dry and cold and academic and not really meaningful. This communion of saints that I'm talking about and being shown about is a living word. Logos is the living word. It's a creative dynamic. And that means it's always generating something new and fresh in your life, because we have this direct relationship. This is what mysticism gives us. It's about a direct knowing. Gnosticism means knowledge, and the Gnostics spoke about having direct knowledge through revelation, but it's through the spirit within. And so Logos doesn't just refer to Christ, the historical story of Christ in the established and institutional church. Logos is the living word, the creative principle, and it's a guidance system. It's your inner guidance system of higher intelligence. Isn't that brilliant? That's come to me just now. Your inner guidance system of higher intelligence. And it's always a group, and it's quite fluid. It can change depending on what you're doing and what your needs are. It takes you from one step to another step, always for your growth, your soul growth. I'm going to just read from Carl Jung, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, because I knew he said something about Logos and I looked it up. He's talking about his fantasies. He's talking about fantasies. He means his active imagination. So he used this process whereby he would go into meditation, he would close his eyes, and he would sort of have active daydreams while he was, just in a meditative state, and allow himself to visualize. And these sort of encounters he had with these inner figures that he would interact with, and he'd ask questions of them and they would answer him back. And this is how he got a lot of his learning, a lot of the information that came through that was crucial to him developing his ideas about the unconscious. Okay, so we have Logos, creative, because it's generating fresh, creative inspiration, stories, knowledge about the world and about reality. And he had two main people that he loved. Well, his main guide, if you like, was called Philemon. And he talks here, I'm going to read a bit to you, about his active imagination, or what he calls fantasies, and his meeting of Philemon, his main guide. He said, Philemon and other figures of my fantasies brought home to me the crucial insight that there are things in the psyche which I do not produce, but which produce themselves and have their own life. In my fantasies, I held conversations with them, and he said things which I had not consciously thought. Okay, so we're getting fresh, creative information, and this is the Logos. This is a creative process that he's saying doesn't come from him. He's just the observer. And this is what I find in my own experience when I do active imagination, when I go into meditation. I usually lie down, usually put on some, like, eye mask and just sort of go into this dark place so that I can completely forget and switch off. Make sure I'm comfortable, nice and warm, and then I allow myself to go to this place. For me, it's a particular place I go. He talks about going down this, descending down this hill. For me, it's a building, it's a big house. I go into the rooms of the house and I meet with the guides there. So there is an inner landscape, there is a location. It's all in imagination. But it becomes an arena for spirit to show up, and for the logos to communicate, for the creative impulse, and for the guides to speak. So this is what I wanted to, I'm excited to share with you, that you can lean into your life. That's what we said in the last video. Lean into your life by being aware of your dreams, being aware of what the inner child is saying, listening to the things showing up in the world that are trying to get messages to you. But you can also go direct to higher guidance, higher consciousness, through your inner dialogue with the logos, the tutor within, the tutors within, by simply asking, what do I need to know? What do I need to know right now? Show me. Or you take a situation that you're worried about, a problem, and you ask before you begin, give me some revelation, give me some insight on this particular situation. And then wait. When the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if you open it, I will come in. I will sup with you. I will share the feast with you. I will commune with you. That's the logos. And I strongly recommend that you do this and you find your own way, your own connection with your inner tuition. It's all there. It's all in you. Don't have to look outside yourself for the answers. Don't have to look to anyone else, because it's all within you. I would like to hear if you found that, what you've made of all this, and if you are using active imagination, if you try it out, what happens? Is it helpful to you? And I think that it's one of those things that if you use the muscle, it gets stronger. So if you don't doubt it, you don't think, am I just making this all up? Well, yes, in a sense you are making it all up. Just allow yourself to daydream. Become the child again. Yeah? And I promise you won't look back. You won't look back. It'll just open up a whole new world for you. Excuse the pun. It will, in every sense. And it'll make you more connected and aligned to meaning and purpose in your daily life. Yeah. Okay, so join me next time. I'm not sure right now where we're going to go next, because I'll wait to hear what I'm being told, what my guidance is telling me, but I'm sure that we're being led on this journey. And as Jung says, you see, it's not being generated by him. He's just receiving it, and that's the same for me. So we'll just see what shows up. But I'll be here, and I hope you'll join me next time. Take care. God bless. Bye for now.